Guys, welcome back. Hope you are doing well. This is Mohammed Badruddin back again with another module from the Portseeger, and this time we are gonna cover OAuth 2.0 authentication vulnerability. So before going to lab, let's just talk about OAuth. What is open authorization? OAuth stands for open authorization, and the current version is 2.0. It is described in RFC 6749, and this framework is maintained by IETF, which is Internet Engineering Task Force. So the main purpose of open authorization is to share account information with third-party websites without revealing your credentials. So back in days, if you remember, whenever you go to any web application or website where to access any feature, you need to log in and you have to create your account on that particular website to get into it and then use the features provided by that application. But now what happened, whenever you go to any application these days, okay, and once you are going to log in, it is going to give you different provisions to log in. So let's say if I go to eBay site, ebay.com, let's say, and here once we will try to log in within the eBay application, it will give us two provision. The first one is traditional or classic provision, where we need to create our account within the eBay application, and the other provision we have is to log in with our social media accounts or Google account, Facebook account, something like this. So whenever you see something like this, there is very strong chances that the application is using OAuth framework. Okay, so you can see here, once I clicked on sign in, you can see there is one option, create your account. So if you don't have your account on eBay, you can specifically log in to your eBay by creating your account inside eBay, right? And other provisions are there, like you can also log in with the Google account, which is your existing account on Google, and you are going to just provide the credentials for the Google account, and the request will go to the Google server. Google will have one open authorization service, API service, and that service will identify from your username and password, and it will see the information and it will say, okay, this user has account with google.com, so you can trust on that user, and I will provide you one access token. So whenever this user is going to log in into eBay, you can trust that user because it is the genuine user and it has the account with google.com. So you can see now we can log in with the Google. Similarly, you can also log in with the Facebook, or you can also log in with your Apple ID. All right. But one thing I want to share here, the main purpose of the open authorization framework is to provide the authorization functionality. So this is purposely built for the authorization. Okay, you can see here, you will provide here your Facebook ID, email ID or password, and you can log into the eBay. So I was saying that the open authorization was purposely built for the authorization. But the thing here is authorization comes after the authentication. Okay, and to add the layer of authentication over open authorization, we use OpenID. And once we use OpenID with the OAuth, it becomes OpenID Connect. And OpenID is basically maintained by the OpenID Foundation, and the OpenID is purposely built for the authentication. So with OpenID, you will have authentication, and after authentication, how the application will know that this user is authorized for these specific resources or to use these specific features. For that purpose, OAuth comes into the picture. Concisely, we can say open authorization is an open standard for access delegation, commonly used to grant websites or application limited access to user resources on the other services without exposing the user's credential. So it enables secure authorization in a simple and standard way across different platforms. Fine. Across different platforms, like let's say on my iPhone, I downloaded a third-party app, and that app is actually uh, I want to use for managing my uh, Twitter notifications, trendings, my post, and all that thing. So I want to manage my Twitter account through that third-party app, or there may be some application which provide me the functionality. So within a single third party app I can manage all my social media accounts like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, like that. So for that purpose, once you try to log into that third party app, the third party app will give you same like that, same like this feature where you can log in with your Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook account. And once you contact to the OAuth service of the Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, you will get one access token. That access token is saved into your device, into your iPhone, and whenever you go to your Twitter account, at that instant, that access token is being transferred to the Twitter server, and Twitter server will identify you from that access token. So I would highly recommend you guys to see all these content, because this is too much. So you need to take the charge to read all these things, and it is very important to understand and read all these content. Now the important thing is, how does OAuth 2.0 work? So there are three things you need to understand. The first is client application, resource owner, and OAuth service provider. Fine. Like client application, so the website or web application that wants to access the user data, that is the client application. So in my example, the third party application which I downloaded and installed on my phone to access and manage my Twitter, Instagram, Facebook accounts, this is the client application. Resource owner, who is the resource owner? So me, I am the resource owner, the user whose data the client application wants to access. So I am the resource owner or data subject, because the data belongs to me. Okay. So OAuth service provider in my example, or in this example, so Google is the OAuth service provider, Facebook is the OAuth service provider. Fine. So the website or application that controls the user data and access to it, they support OAuth by providing an API for interacting with both an authorization server and a resource server. And you will see that in a minute in a bigger picture. So this is the thing, these three terms you must understand. Now, how does this whole process works? I already mentioned here, but you can also read this. The client application requests access to a subset of the user's data, specifying which grant type they want to use and what kind of access they want. So here one thing which is important, grant type, and I will explain what are those grant types. So basically here for these labs in the course figure, we are going to cover only two grant type. The first one is implicit, and the second one is authorization code grant type. Okay. And we will see that in a minute, but you can just now understand that the client application requests the access to a subset of users data. Okay. So client application wants to access my data. Then the user is prompted to log in to the OAuth service and explicitly give their consent for the requested access. Fine. So if I come back here, and let me go to the inspect, then go to the network tab, and fine. So if I go to click sign in, I just wanted to show you how it's trying to access the OAuth service from the Google. So I click on sign in. Now we are redirected to this page where the application is asking us to log in. And let's say we choose to log in with the Google. So once I click on continue with Google, you can see here there is one endpoint auth. Okay. So this auth is the authorization endpoint. So this is where the open authorization or calling the OAuth API service. Fine. Now let's go and let's say I want to log in with my Facebook account. So once I click on Facebook, you should see here, let it complete. You see here /OAuth. Okay. redirect, URI, HTTP, client ID. So as I mentioned before, that every device or every client will have one unique client ID. So it will identify that specific client from the client ID. Scope is email, redirect underscore URI is HTTP, and then eBay. Okay, what is the state and all these. So we will see what is the scope and what is client ID, what is redirect URI, all these things. So but my purpose to just show you how that OAuth is being called. Fine. Okay, so now once the user log in and provide the consent or permissions, okay, because login is different thing, but any third party if trying to access your data, you have to give the consent, or you must be agree to provide that permission to that third party application. So after login, it will ask you, okay, this third party wants to access your email, your phone number, and blah blah blah, let's say uh, your date of birth or something like this. Would you like to provide the consent, or are you agree to provide the permission to the third party to access this much amount of your data? If you say yes, okay, then you are good to go. Now the client application receives a unique access token that proves that you have permissions from the user to access the requested data. That's what I was just explained. So exactly how this happened varies significantly depending on the grant type. Okay, and grant type, we will see what is grant type. The client application uses this access token. So once you log in, provide the consent, okay, then the application will get one access token, and this will be your ticket to go. Okay, so in that case, you every time you do not need to provide the credential, you do not need to pass the credential. And what is important in this scenario is that suppose now the third party app is being hacked, the database of the third party app is being hacked. At that instant, that third party app does not contain your credentials, so you do not need to worry. Now the third point is OAuth grant types. So there are two type of grant types, actually four or five, but here for this purpose most commonly we use two types. So here we only see two type. So the first thing is, what is an OAuth grant type? So grant type determines the exact sequence of steps that are involved in a OAuth process. So you can also refer it to OAuth flow. So there are two type, one is implicit and another one is authorization code grant type. And there are some scopes. You see the scope in the URI in the network tab. So for any OAuth grant type, the client application has to specify what data it wants to access and what kind of operations it wants to perform. So it does this using the scope parameter. So once I try to log in with the Facebook, you see there is a parameter named as scope. So scope basically define what is included, okay, or what the third party app trying to access. So go to the network and let's say I click continue with the Facebook, and once you see here OAuth, let's see the request here, you can see there is one scope. So scope is email. Fine. So scope could be contacts. Suppose the application I installed on my phone needs to access my contact list, okay, contact read permission, contact list read permission, or something like that. So this is all within the scope. Fine. So when OAuth is used for authentication, okay, however, the standardized OpenID Connect scopes are often used instead, because as I mentioned that OAuth has the main purpose for the authorization, and if we need to add the authentication layer over it, we use OpenID, and once we use OpenID with the OAuth, it becomes OpenID Connect. Okay, so here you can see, for example, the scope will gonna be OpenID profile, will grant the client application read access to a predefined set of basic information about the user, such as their email address, username, and so on. And we will see this in the OpenID Connect specific part, where there we have. Okay, but right now I'm interested only talking about the OAuth. Okay, so now there are grant types: authorization code grant type, and then we have implicit grant type. Fine. So I will cover these two topics because this video is gonna be very long if I explain these two grant type here in this video. So I will explain it within the lab once we attempt the lab that contains the authorization code grant type or implicit grant type. I will explain there, or maybe I'm gonna record a specific video on just these two grant types, right? So for now, that's enough, and I'm gonna see you in the next video. Bye.